Hello, everyone. Sorry, I'm having some technical problems with my sound because I'm getting feedback, which I shouldn't be. But anyhow, welcome, everyone, and we'll try and work out what is happening about my sound. So here we have today that 'tis the season, demystifying personalization for the holiday shopper wins. And we have got a fantastic lineup here. Just let me see what I'm doing here. There we go. Let's see if that's any better. Great. Okay, that's better. Okay, so here we go. Thanks everyone for being here, for logging in and attending today's session. Like I said, we've got a great cast. Really looking forward to introducing everyone to you. But let's go first of all, and we'll do a little bit of housekeeping, shall we? First things first, the webinar is going to be recorded and will be available on demand shortly after we're finished. So if you're wanting to forward it to anyone, let anyone know about it, or maybe there's some gems you wanted to rehear and re-listen to, or share with your colleagues afterwards, just check in. We're here at Brighttalk. We're going to be taking questions at the end, so please feel free to ask questions throughout. We'll be checking as we go along, and we'll be just going through and answering them at the very end. All three speakers will be there and ready, which includes me. We'll be able to answer any of the questions that you have. Finally, within the housekeeping things, we are going to be announcing, or Iterable will be announcing the winners next week of the book prize draw. So what we're going to be doing is Iterable will be drawing the 20 winners of the signed copies of my new upcoming, soon to be published book, and they'll be sending an email directly to each of you who have actually won, and they'll be just emailing everyone else to let you know who the winners were. Let's go and have a look at what we can be doing right here and now with promoting this, with sharing all the good info that we're going to be giving to you. You can be including in your tweets at Iterable or holistic email. There's Kait is going to be speaking later on, and Jeffrey as well, and I'm going to be kicking it off. So that's all of our Twitter handles that you can be using. Of course, you can also use the hashtag HolisticLive as well. So now we have got one more little thing, one more little task, and that is simply a prompt for at the very end, before you shut down, please rate and feedback this actual webinar, because that really helps us. If you give us stars, then that's fantastic. But if you could also give us actual feedback and what you found good, what was not so good, be honest, because what we want to do is use this feedback to be continually enhancing and improving the webinars that we bring to you. This is me. I'm Kath Pei. I'm founder and CEO of Holistic Email Marketing, and I'm your host for today. And sorry about that little bumpy start with the sound and everything, but I think it's all under control, which is great. So I've been doing email marketing now for over 20 plus years, which is why I finally have decided, I finally got my act together, and I'm publishing a book, and that book will be published at the end of November. Really looking forward to that, and it's going to be called, surprise, Holistic Email Marketing. Stay tuned for that, because you probably hear a little bit more about it from me if you are subscribed to me in any way, or holistic, of course. And today we have with us Jeffrey Vocell, who's Director of Product Marketing at Iterable. Jeffrey, would you like to give yourself a little bit of an insight to what it is that you do at Iterable, and your years of experience and so on too?
I would love to, Kath. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with everyone. I am Jeffrey Vocell, Director of Product Marketing at Iterable. I have been in MarTech now for a bit over 10 or 12 years or so, and in product marketing pretty much the entire time. I lead the go-to-market strategy as well as product launches for Iterable. So as we think about bringing our customer experience platform to marketers and how you can impact the customer experience for your own customers in the broader market this holiday season, I directly manage the kind of strategy behind that and the team behind that.
Great. Thanks so much, Jeffrey. And now I'd like to introduce you to Kait. So Kait Creamer, she's CRM Marketing Manager for Framer. Kait, would you like to give us a little bit of an introduction to yourself?
Thank you so much, Kath. I'm so excited, like Jeffrey said, to be here with you all. It's a great bunch. I'm glad to be here with these wonderful presenters and this fantastic audience. A little background on me. I've been doing marketing, digital marketing, for the better part of a decade. And email marketing specifically, I fell in love with 5 years ago and have not gone back. I've worked for a few different software companies, so SaaS is my bread and butter, but I geek out so hard over email that I tend to just find myself buried in all sorts of different e-commerce and different subscription models and stuff like that. Yeah, excited to talk about this wild, fun, wacky time of year in this wild, fun, wacky year.
Amazing, yes, and I'm going to be sharing a few points about the wild and wacky year in my part of the webinar here. So I'm going to kick off with a bit of a little intro, looking at peak season trends, what happened last year in 2019, a couple of quick wins, and addressing what we can possibly expect for this upcoming holiday season. But first off, I'd really like to actually kick off with a poll. So the poll is, the question is, do you feel prepared for the upcoming holiday season? On your screen shortly, there's going to be coming 3 questions, and you can answer yes with a smiley face, no with a sad face, and getting there with an excited exclamation mark, because that's what we are. We're all excited, right? When it shows on your screen, start voting, please, because we'd really like to find out what state you're in at the moment. Okay, here we go. Okay. We've got a few positive ones. They're getting there. No one's quite prepared yet. Oh, there we go. We've got some prepared, which is awesome.
I feel a bit like these poll results might be a good reflection of this year that we're all going through. It's getting there. We're trying.
We're just continually getting there, aren't we? I tell you what, this year is just teaching us to be nimble. That's what it is. We're just perpetually,
Indeed it is.
Yeah, reacting, changing,
Absolutely.
moving. Yeah. Okay, to be honest, it's not as bad as I thought it could be. We'll just get a few more votes. Keep them coming. Okay, I've stopped the voting now. We've got 13% of the audience that voted said, actually no, it's just changed. 12% said yes, they do feel prepared. 25% said no, with sad smiley, sad faces, and 62% said getting there. Okay, all up, I think that's pretty good. Although, considering we are mid-October, but I think some of you, to a certain extent, may have been waiting to find out what's happening with Amazon Prime Day, which has just finished as well. Let's go and have a look and see what's happening now. From last year, we know that 2019 was the first holiday season to pass the $1 trillion mark in retail sales. Brick and mortar retail and e-commerce spending total, this is US stat, over $1 trillion, right? And that stat comes from eMarketer. So that's pretty darn amazing. 79% of shoppers are willing to buy from a new retailer over the holidays, right? So that's a great stat. That's very positive. At the end of 2019, 20% of consumers said they were planning to spend less during the 2020 holidays for the following reasons. 9% to save more than they were spending, 8% to pay down debt, 7% to deal with a deteriorating household situation. Right, so that's not so great. In February 2020, eMarketer made the following predictions for the 2020 holiday season. Total retail spend to increase by 3.4% to, wow, even more, so 1+ trillion again. E-commerce spend to increase by 13.9% to 156 billion. And that again is an eMarketer stat. So we've got some positives, we've got a few negatives. But as Kait was referring to, and as we all know, I'm wondering whether we need to literally just wipe the slate clean, because there are so many things that are different. There are too many variables that we can't necessarily, with any assurance or confidence, say, okay, we did that survey at the end of 2019, and based upon that, we've got a prediction. That I'm not sure that is really suitable for us to be doing it. I do believe that this year's holiday season is going to be a challenge for many retailers. One reason, Amazon Prime Day that I referred to, moving forward to October, it's just finished, right? Has that actually taken up a fair bit of the wallet? More brands online than ever before. And this is due to COVID, because people, the shops who have got the brick and mortar shops, a lot of them have closed down, or they've got limited hours, or they're just not getting the actual traffic through. So they've gone online where they didn't really have a big presence online before, if at all. Consumers also wanting to buy local in order to support their local shops and their local suppliers. And so that is also going to be, I know there's a big push, and that could affect some of the bigger brands. The smaller brands, you might be able to take advantage of it, but the bigger ones may suffer because of it. And then, of course, you've got the budgetary concerns. So many people now are unemployed, or they're just not sure, they haven't got that confidence and that assurance that their job is viable in the long term. So maybe there's going to be less people shopping, and maybe they might have smaller budgets. There's a lot of unknown, right? On the flip side, of course, is that if people do shop, there's a good chance they're going to be shopping online, and in which case email does help. Well, email helps with the brick and mortar shopping as well. But the big question is besides slashing your prices even more than usual, what is it that you can do to be standing out in the crowd? So before we go to the next point, which I want to be presenting, I'm wanting to ask what this particular poll, right? So what is your main concern regarding your email program for this upcoming holiday season? And I've just listed those 4 main concerns that I had mentioned. So we've got Amazon Prime Day having moved forward, the unknown with regards to COVID and the economy and reduced budgets, more online competitors, customers wanting to buy local, or is it just your regular concerns? Lots of pressure and so much to do. So let me know what is your, I can imagine that you've probably got a bit of concerns about all of these things, but what's your main concern? Great, that they're coming in, so keep them coming. So Kait and Jeffrey, what do you think is going to be leading the way here?
Oh man, that's a tricky one. My gut would be more online competitors, but I wonder if just the regular concerns is the regular concerns plus everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
What about you,
I feel the
Jeffrey?
same way.
Yeah?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Given this year, and I guess how strange it's been, as you mentioned, Kath, I have to imagine just the regular concerns plus all of the additional stuff, of course, will take the lead.
Yeah, yeah. The one at the moment is, yes, the unknown with regards to COVID. And that's a big one because it's the economy, it's reduced budgets, it's job stability or lack thereof as well. So, yeah, that's a pretty big one. And then we've got the more online competitors. Amazon Prime Day doesn't really seem to have been an issue at all, and neither is customers wanting to buy local. So that's interesting. Very interesting. Any more?
I'm
votes?
delighted by that.
Yeah. I'm a bit relieved about the Amazon Prime Day because I did think it was going to be. I do know a couple of retailers who were very concerned about that. To hear that it's not, as far as these attendees are concerned, that's encouraging. So therefore, 38% with the unknown, 30% with more online competitors, and 30% just the regular concerns. Lots of pressure, lots to do, totally understand that. We are wanting to actually move to the next slide because what I want to do here is I want to be talking about, there we go, there. Okay, so what I'm wanting to talk about here is one of the ways that we can actually be ahead of our customers, like standing out from the crowd, because that's really what we want to do, right? We can be slashing our prices, and to be honest, most of our audience, most of our customers, most of certainly Black Friday customers and Cyber Monday customers and shoppers, they're very much focused on the value, right? The discount. What are they going to be getting for their money? What's the lowest price they can pay, and all the rest of it. So that's a business decision. That's nothing that we here can help you with. But what we here can help you with is actually trying to get to stand out in the crowd in a more helpful manner. So from all the learnings gained over my 21 years plus experience in my marketing, for me, the secret sauce boils down to being helpful. Customer experience marketing is, I believe, I've done lots of research and it's made essentially up of three main pillars. Personalization, which we're going to be talking about today. Customer centricity, and to be honest, you can't be talking about personalization without being customer centric. And helpfulness, and it's the latter one I want to be sort of touching on now. If we go back, let's go back to the reality of marketing to consumers. If we think of it from a brand perspective, we want to make our sale, right? We want the customer to buy our products. We want our subscribers to convert. We want our customers to buy again and everything. That's our objective. But if we actually flip it around and we look at the other side, because I believe it's two sides of the same coin, true customer centricity is both sides of that same coin. The other side of the coin is the customer. It's actually, they've signed up to hear from us because they like our products or they like our service, and they're potentially wanting to buy. Our customers have historically had a need and they have bought from us, and we're wanting them to buy again, and there's a good chance they want to buy again if they liked the service and the product that we gave them. So that's the two sides. We've got our brand objectives, we've got the customer objectives. Now, often when we're marketing, we tend to just focus on our objectives, right? And that's what we tend to do, and we tend to email a lot. We've got some great offers for you. It's all about us. It's about our deals. It's about, we've got some coupons that you can use, all that kind of stuff. It's always about us. If we actually flip it around and we actually say, wait on, how can we help our customers achieve their objectives? Now, hear that. How can we help our customers? That's the real point. So what we want to do is actually identify and focus on the customer then, that's the customer centricity, and give them an enhanced customer experience and make it all about them. Make it as easy for them to achieve their objective as possible. Then at the end of the day, we, by default, will achieve ours. And let me tell you, I've been doing this for years. This is the easier way to be generating revenue because you're focusing on the customer. The information that you're giving them is so much more palatable, and therefore they're actually more motivated to be going through with this. So what we want to do is just stay focused and understand that every single email that we send, even our sale emails, even our Black Friday emails, everything can be customer-centric, can be helpful. And sometimes it's just how you position it, how you write the subject line, how you actually, preface or write the copy, that first opening intro in the email, making it more about the customer rather than about yourselves. You're still going to be giving them the coupons. You're still going to be giving them the discounts. You've still got the great products, but you're focusing more on the customer than on yourself. And it really is looking at how they can, be helped, essentially. So start looking at that when you're, for those that are getting there, that haven't quite finished preparing for the holiday season, start thinking about maybe we could go through our emails and see if we can just do a few tweaks here See if we can make it more about them. And this all really comes back down to the basic things of even what are the benefits? Why should they? How are they going to benefit? All those kind of questions, if we can actually put it there and make it simple, it makes it the decision easier for the customers. So here's a couple, we promised a couple of quick wins. Here's a couple of 2019 findings from Deloitte, which I believe are going to follow through for this year. So with regards to free delivery, everyone loves free delivery. All the surveys that I found, I read, or everything I've known in the past, free delivery is a huge factor and consumers absolutely love it. But here's some interesting ones. Holiday shoppers that prefer fast shipping want purchases to arrive in 2 days or less. We are talking fast, yeah? Holiday shoppers that prefer free shipping are willing to wait longer for deliveries between 3 and 7 days, right? So therefore, if you offer free shipping, you can go the slower route. If you're offering fast shipping, you need to make sure it's going to be delivered within 2 days. Again, we're being conditioned now by Amazon and the like. So that's what they mean, and that's what their expectations. And as with everything in life, I really believe happiness boils down to setting and meeting expectations. So if you can set the right expectations and then you meet them, then you're on your way to having a happy customer. So at its core, helpful email marketing sees every single email that you send, whether it's a transactional email or an actual marketing email, like I was just describing previously, as a customer service-oriented message that delivers on the original transaction that they made, right? So when the customers first opted in, you said, listen, we're going to be sending you these great offers and deals and service and everything like this. And they're going to say, great, I want some of that. Fantastic. So every single email that you're sending now, whether it's transactional or marketing, you are delivering upon that original transaction. This is key, and you really need to stay focused on it. So each message recognizes and upholds that value exchange. And what you promise that you're going to be delivering in exchange for the customer's email address and permission, then you need to make sure that you're delivering upon it. Because when we think about also, because we talked about the 3 pillars and personalization, which Jeffrey's going to be talking a lot about, Kate's going to be talking about as well and giving you some great examples. So when we think about personalization, we tend to think about lots of complex data, rules, risks of things going wrong, hard to measure, hard to test, need for holdout groups, all the rest of it. Now, all of these are true. I wish I could say otherwise, but they are true. But the bottom line is it doesn't have to be, because there's various ways of actually achieving personalization, from a tone of voice to real-time personalization using behavioral data, all the way to life cycle marketing. So this is like what Jeffrey's going to be talking about. He's going to be talking about how you can actually be using this personalization to actually give you great wins and in better results this term, this holiday season. So Jeffrey, just handing it over to you now for you to share us with all of your insights.
Thank you so much, Kath. I appreciate it. And I'm excited to be with everyone today and talk about personalization. Personalization is something that I've been passionate about. I've been working on in my over 10-year career in MarTech. I've been a part of a lot of personalization programs, some that have worked well, others that frankly haven't worked so well, unfortunately. And so I'm excited to talk through today how we can all drive festive shopping success with personalization. So I first want to talk about how we prepare for the peak season. With Black Friday coming up upon us, with the holiday season coming up upon us, I want to ensure that we all are prepared for the season. Then I'm going to talk about how we can use personalization to drive that success in some real-life examples. So let's dive right in. First, as Kath mentioned, there are a few challenges that each of you are facing. COVID is a big one, and the uncertainty around COVID and the broader economy is a big one. Product scarcity is another one. Products, whether they're in stock or the supply levels, is huge. Let's dive into each of these just a little bit deeper. So we know from a recent iterable study that emotional connections drive purchase behaviors. In fact, 83% of people said they are more likely to purchase from a brand that they have an emotional connection with. And that's important, right? If you think about the last brand that made you smile, or the last brand that sent you a message at just the right time, it's that behavior, that action that can drive repeat purchases, can drive the engagement, and drive the loyalty that you all desire. And so 2 quick tips I want to share on this slide. Number 1, if you have a mission, so to speak, share that with the world. I was recently shopping for glasses. I found that my vision in one eye had unfortunately gone down to 20/40, and so I was looking for new glasses, and I stumbled upon the online site Warby Parker. And when I came across the site, I read a little bit about their mission and found that when you order a pair of eyeglasses from them, they actually donate another pair to somebody in need. And that was really heartwarming to me. That meant a lot to me for somebody who may be facing some challenges with their vision. If you have, whether you have a holistic or altruistic mission like that to some extent or not, share that mission with the world. And number 2, consider how you segment your messaging as well. Different generations prefer messaging in different ways, and I'll be talking about that in just a few minutes. The second thing is there's been a surge in e-commerce demand. In fact, just yesterday, I was listening to the Amplitude conference, and the CEO of Amplitude mentioned a stat that actually put me back in my chair a little bit, which is in 2019, there are only 2 days during the entire year that online shopping or e-commerce surpassed $2 billion. And you can probably guess what those days are. They were Black Friday and they were Cyber Monday. In 2020 so far, there's been 130 days that have surpassed that same dollar figure. And we can see this is a natural trend that is, going up and to the right, so to speak, and will not slow down. We've all moved to this kind of digital first landscape, and that's not going to go away. So as you think about your own marketing programs, as you think about the demand that you will all experience this holiday season, consider that a lot of shoppers, 67%, according to our research at Iterable, will primarily do their shopping online. And so you need to consider that communications infrastructure. If you're used to sending emails to smaller audiences and you expect that to grow really largely, consider what that may require, so to speak, heading into this holiday season. And also think about that long-term shift online. How can you provide a great experience when people may not be setting foot in a physical store or physical environment that you may be able to interact with them? And lastly, in this section, I want to talk about shoppers' budgets. Kath mentioned that there are a lot of people wary of spending too much money, and that is absolutely true. We see it in unemployment rates all across the world right now. And 36% of consumers, according to the same Iterable study, said that they are waiting for a sales event to make a purchase, while just 17%. When we think about that and when we break that down a little further, the same Iterable study found that for consumers earning more than $100,000 per year, they only needed a few days heads up about an upcoming sale. Maybe they have more disposable income or they're willing to spend more this season, versus consumers that were earning less than that amount felt like they needed a week or two. And then moving on to the second takeaway here, don't message them too often. I think, as Kath mentioned, we can oftentimes as marketers get into this mindset of our goals, our company's behavior, and not truly have empathy for the messages that somebody's receiving and how many messages they are receiving. So breaking down by that same income brackets, the folks earning more than $100,000 per year needed about a week or two to recover from all of the messages they received during the holiday season. Whereas, again, the folks under that threshold needed more like 2 to 4 weeks, so to speak. And so as you think about not only your holiday promotions, but also the kind of post-holiday cycle and that long-term shift online, consider how you will let those folks decompress and interact with your brand and ensure that they are having a great experience with your brand heading into this next year. And so we just got through Prime Day. Prime Day was the past 2 days, lots of sales, and as Kath mentioned, some concern that it will take up a lot of people's budget. So it'll be interesting for us all as marketers to stay aware of what some of the trends, what some of the data coming out of Prime Day are. Walmart had a big save event that was recently hosted as well. And then Best Curry's PC has a whole bunch of Black Friday deals that they're already starting to put out there into the world as well to prepare for this online shopping event. So I want to take a quick poll. On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the least and 5 being the most, how personalized do you feel like your festive campaign is? How much do you think you are tailoring that campaign to every recipient within your audience? So if you wouldn't mind going into the poll and answering that question, again, 1 being the least, 5 being the most, we would appreciate it.
Jeffrey, I think it's kind of cool here to, I think it's cool to highlight too, 1 to 5 can be so subjective, but maybe if we're considering in terms of like how much data you have, are you using all of it out of 5? Are you using all of the data that you have on your customers to personalize the campaign versus 1, like we're not using anything except maybe email addresses to send them emails?
Yeah, that's a fantastic point, Kate. I think you're absolutely right. Personalization fundamentally needs to recognize the individual for the individual. And so how much of that data are you truly using? That's a great point. Okay, so some information's coming in. It looks like a lot of folks are, around the 2 or 3 mark, so to speak. Maybe if it's fair to characterize, they're somewhat personalized, but maybe not as much as you all would possibly hope. All right, so let's talk about how to actually drive festive shopping success with personalization. And there's a few stats. I'm not going to read off all of these. In fact, there's a lot of stats out there in the broader internet that you can find about why personalization is important. But just one I want to read off real quick here is the first one. 91% of consumers are more likely to shop with brands who provide relevant offers or recommendations. And that's critically important, right? Because it's the start of your relationship with a customer. It's that touch point with a customer that can provide a long-standing conversation ultimately over time. And here at Iterable, we've thought a lot about personalization. We think it is critical to the future success of marketers and how e-commerce marketers, a lot of B2C marketers will need to build their programs off of personalization fundamentally heading into 2021 and certainly beyond that as well. And it's really founded by these 3 key elements: the right data model, the right technology, and the right strategy. So I'm going to talk briefly about each of these 3. The right data. So as, Kate just brought up, as marketers, we all have a lot of data, right? We have data within our CRM, we have data from our website, we have maybe mobile data, whatever the case may be, we have data in a lot of different places. I think the challenge as marketers is oftentimes this data is spread out across multiple silos. I referenced a little bit earlier that I've been a part of a number of personalization programs, and one of those examples actually unfortunately failed because of this exact reason. Because we were trying to personalize content on the website using information that we frankly just didn't have connected into our website in order to do that. And so I get this challenge as a marketer and how difficult this can be. And this leads us into the right technology. The right marketing technology stack will combine all of those data sources, regardless of where they may reside, and fundamentally feed them into this unified platform. Now, I'm not talking about combining or integrating every single tool you have. That is an enormous task and one that will probably take, frankly, longer than this holiday season. I am talking about integrating some of those data silos into your communication infrastructure. And that's nowhere near the level of effort that it may require to integrate all those tools or all those data silos overall. So when you think about it, when you integrate those data silos, you can suddenly use contextual information from your CRM, your website, your mobile data, your purchase data, and every other data source that you have to truly personalize the content to the individual. And so let's talk about a quick poll. I want to ask what level of segmentation, you are using to create a more personalized approach. There are 3 levels in this question. Level 1 is collecting actionable data and reactive personalization attributes. Think of this as first name level personalization. Level 2 is proactive personalization. And level 3 is true individualization. And I'll describe these in a lot more detail directly after the poll, but we would love to get a little bit more information and hear about how you're thinking about segmentation, because we're going to be talking about segmentation and how you segment your audience for personalization over the next few minutes. Kath or Kate, how have you seen some marketers segment for success, or what level even have you seen marketers at heading into the holiday season?
I've seen some really cool examples, and I'll actually highlight this a bit later, but I've seen some cool examples of brands doing like big chunk segmentation, which I think personalization can be pretty scary for a lot of brands, because it's like you have all of this information and then it's this feeling of like, oh man, where do I start? The cool thing with looking at your groups into like big segments is that you can take all that really individual personalized data and come up with like big chunks of personas. So all of these people with this type of maybe job title or household income or where you live in the world, things like that, you can use those to lump people together and give them a message that's relevant. It may not be one-to-one, but that's a good first step, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's awesome that you've seen that. And some of the poll results are coming in now, and the vast majority of folks are saying level 1 personalization, about 70% or so. And interestingly enough, I did not expect this, but about 20% are saying level 2, and the final 10% are saying level 3, which is great to see level 3 that high. I think level 3 is where all brands naturally aspire to be when it comes to a personalization program. So it's great to see that some folks are there. Okay, so let's talk about segmentation. I already mentioned these are the 3 levels of kind of personalization in your program, and they all fundamentally tie down to how you segment your audience and the data that you have about your customers or consumers. So level 1 is the basic information, such as first name, last name, maybe some basic purchase data, maybe triggering them an email based off when their birthday is, even as an example. It's this kind of reactive information or reactive communication based off some data that you have about your audience. A lot of people are doing this. In fact, in the time that you have been on this webinar, it's very likely that you've received an email that's titled to you, "Hi, first name," as an example. And there are a lot of great examples out there on level 1 personalization, Black Friday announcements, showing coupons, and using, as I mentioned, the first name to personalize, some product visuals even that tie into, something that you like or prefer can be an example of level 1 personalization. And level 2, I think, is where it starts to get really interesting. Level 2 is when you start to incorporate a user's past behaviors. And so tying that data on maybe what they've done on your website, what items they've actually looked at, what items they've added to the cart, but maybe not purchased. And it's not just abandoned cart, to be clear, but it's that behavioral element that ties into this that is really interesting. And so things like website activity, geo-targeting, cross-channel messaging, metadata, and a whole lot more can tie into level 2. And there's a great example here of level 2 personalization. And you can see first and foremost, the subject line in this email is fun and engaging. Hey, silly, you forgot something. We're all so used to seeing our first name or these formal emails in our inbox that this email breaks the mold right at the top by calling that out. And then there's beautiful visuals and imagery in this email all over. It's not only a beautifully designed email, but the images are really nice as well. And it motivates a conversation too, because it's populating the email with relevant information, with content, so to speak, that is relevant to the individual. If they looked at a specific type of makeup, then it can populate that email with that specific type or even brand of makeup as an example. And finally, I want to talk about level 3 personalization. This is where you take your entire database, whether you have a database of 500 or 500,000 or 500 million. It's where you take your entire database and truly treat them as individuals and not just broad segments. This is the kind of level, so to speak, that we all aspire to be at. And to really get here, we need to understand and have tools to help us to get to recommendations and AI, even dynamic content, things that will naturally help us process all of this data. The larger your audience is, if it is among that 500 million, so to speak, that I mentioned, then that's a lot of data to process, right? And as a person, trying to sift through all of that information about your users is incredibly difficult, and that's where some tools can naturally help out. Level 3 personalization just brings this to the next level. It's very intent-based, it's proactive, it's directly diving into the things that your recipient truly cares about. And frankly, it's also in real time. Speed matters. So as the consumer maybe goes into your app or is on your website, that speed to actually send them communications matter. And so automating that real-time content is a massive piece of this. So I mentioned earlier that different generations prefer messaging in different ways. Some of the boomers are now past the initial learning curve of online shopping. In fact, over 62% will be digital buyers this year. And they want a seamless checkout experience. They want that kind of effortless checkout experience, so to speak. And so they don't want to have you make them work, so to speak, to buy a product. Whereas millennials are really concerned about health and safety and the impact of the pandemic. And you may see, if you're looking at these kind of breakdowns in your own data, you may see possibly a cutback in spending across millennials. And finally, Gen Z spends a lot of time shopping on social channels. So consider how you can reach them via ads or content on those social channels, especially on Instagram or Snapchat. And ensure that mobile is part of the journey. I read a stat just the other day that all of us, especially now in the pandemic, that all of us are spending over 3 hours per day on our smartphones. And at Iterable, we studied 30 brands, and 70% of those brands sent at least one push notification, and the average consumer was picking up their phone 150 times per day. There's never been a better opportunity to engage with your customers and your consumers than mobile presents now, because everyone is on their devices. Do it in a way that is empathetic and you're not overwhelming your customers, of course, and do it in a way that is helpful to them. But there's never been a better time to engage with your customers on mobile. And so to wrap up and hand it over to Kait here momentarily, share your mission with the world and drive that emotional connection. Ensure you have the right data before you get started, and it's all in an integrated place. As you think about your holiday campaign and even beyond, choose the right marketing mix. What channels are you going to use? Is it solely email? Is now the time to engage on mobile? And what level can you personalize at truly based off the data that you have? Map out those holiday plans and define that audience. And I think most importantly, keep testing. Don't be afraid to try new things and experiment with your campaigns and your content, because naturally that will drive success and learnings, which will help you iterate faster and grow better. So with that said, I will turn it over to Kait to talk about the top tips for your cross-channel marketing strategy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. I really appreciate that. That was some really interesting stats around like how the world is shifting this year and what the e-commerce landscape has looked like in years past. And so I actually, just as a human being who's invested in the state of the world and the economy and my friends' jobs, a lot of my friends are marketers. I'm really curious to see how this year unfolds. So I'm going to share a few examples of things that I think could be particularly effective this year for a cross-channel marketing strategy. So we're going to kick it off with, this is just one of my favorite sort of like life mottos and something that I speak about a lot in marketing, in that authenticity is not unprofessional, and you have to be yourself. Somebody actually asked a really great question in the chat earlier. Someone asked, how can we ethically market the spending-oriented holiday season? And should we be driving people to spend or buy? I feel as if we need to cancel the buy spending season. Honestly, same. But second of all, I don't think we have to cancel e-commerce or life as we know it to be really good at our jobs and to help our companies grow and to also be kind to people. This email I actually think is a great example of this. So this is from a company called Modern Tally. It's a really small local company. And Modern Tally does a great job, I think, of sharing the story around their products. So it's a small maker brand. And what they've done here is they're sharing some leather monogramming options. Sorry, that's a hard phrase for me to get out. But what I think is particularly cool here is that this brand is showing off just one small aspect of a product that they're selling, so leather monogramming. And instead of just doing a tiny little highlight or using it as an add-on to a product, they're telling a really effective story around here's how this product fits in your life, and here's what you can do to gift someone something with a little leather monogram. It's such a tiny, it's literally like a tiny 3-4 centimeter thing that you can put on a bunch of different products that makes it feel very warm and very personal. And that's actually what I love about really good marketing, is that I think done well, you don't have to say, buy everything right now. This is your last chance to save. This is, if you don't buy this product, your pants are going to light on fire. Like, I don't think that's good marketing, but what is good marketing is telling the story around your brand and how you arrived to where you are. And what I think is particularly cool is that you can use personalization to sound very human. For example, in the bottom of this email where the Modern Tally highlights, put a tag on it. These could be some really custom personal product recommendations based on things they think you might enjoy, but they don't explicitly have to say, this is a product that we picked out based on the last 3 bags that you bought from us. They can just talk a little more about what they're doing as a company, how it fits into your life, and create that empathetic, emotional connection. And this is my caution with personalization, and I'll forever be saying this, is that personalization, honestly, if you do it wrong, it can sound really robotic and it can miss the mark. I think really what's important with personalization is remembering that there's a human on the receiving side of your emails and knowing that the data that you have is really valuable and you have to treat it as such. Whatever you know about someone, make sure you're checking your data, make sure it's relevant, and just do subtle things to remind your audience that you're there to support them. Exactly like Kath said earlier, our job as marketers is to be helpful first and the rest will follow. And also important this year is to say something different. I know a lot of you expressed concerns about this year just being a little extra chaotic. One thing that I think is particularly important as we're shifting to a very digital landscape, this holiday season is going to be unlike any other because people aren't going to be going in stores as much, and a lot of things are going to be shifting digital. If you imagine how absolutely wild your inbox was before on Black Friday and Cyber Monday, it's going to be doubly, triply so this year because everyone's shifting to an online strategy. The way to stand out in that sort of landscape isn't so much just shouting louder or sending more emails, but it's saying something different. I particularly like this David's Tea example because they've done a lot of really cool stuff with personalization in terms of they're showing the data that they have on you, which sounds a little creepy, honestly, but they said you've bought enough tea to outweigh 3 chipmunks, which is such just a bizarre and delightful fact. But what I think they're doing really effectively is they're not just regurgitating, you've bought however many ounces of tea, they're putting it in context. They're giving you something to giggle about. And they're also not doing this big, complex, if this, then this logic, where I think sometimes personalization can go really wrong. For example, what they could have done, they could have said, okay, you've bought 24 ounces of tea, and we think you would like to buy 24 ounces of tea more. humans don't operate that way. Humans don't think about necessarily the exact quantity they've bought in the past and what they might buy in the future. But I guarantee you this email made somebody smile when they're thinking about how much tea they bought to outweigh 3 chipmunks. So there are really fun ways to say something different without just saying it louder. And then, again, Domino's does a really good job of this. You can say something a little bit differently. They've done this fantastic job. I love Domino's marketing. I think they're absolutely brilliant. It's especially an interesting story to check out if you follow their rebranding journey. But the stuff that they do at the top of this email, the free pizza will soon be yours, I think is especially fascinating. So they're saying your next free pizza is in 50 points. This is a tiny little thing, right? They're not customizing this entire email based on how many points you have today, but they have created this delightful little design at the top. They're pulling in one piece of data, and it actually gives you a lot of context about your relationship with this brand. It might motivate you to buy a little bit more. It shows you where you stand with them. So simple like that can go a very long way. And another thing that I think they do beautifully here is with their cross-channel messaging. So not a lot of people want text messages about pizza unless text messages about pizza are helping you save money and, honestly, at least for me, order pizza more frequently. I love pizza. But Domino's texts are really cool. If you have a look here, they set great expectations around how many messages you're going to get a month, which I don't know how many people listen to Brene Brown here, but she says very frequently, clear is kind. And I absolutely subscribe to that belief as a marketer. So they're saying text offered subscription, 6 messages per month, and help for help, text stop to end. So they're setting very clear expectations around the relationship. And then beyond that, they're saying, thanks for confirming. And also, here's the deal we're going to give you. So the thing that they're doing really well here is that they're setting clear expectations everywhere, but more importantly, they're offering value everywhere. So this is something that we have to be so mindful of during this season. People are getting inundated with emails and text messages and direct mail. Honestly, I don't know about your mailboxes, but my mailbox blows up this time of year from all sorts of different brands who, frankly, a lot of them I didn't know had any of my information. I'm not sure at what point I bought from them in the past. And if I'm just suddenly getting a ton of their stuff, it feels a little invasive and overwhelming. So being especially mindful of setting those expectations, creating a very human, very valuable relationship from the start is super important. One of the things that I speak a lot about in terms of emotional intelligence and being empathetic and being a kind human and kind marketer is that you have to treat everything like a relationship, right? You're entering into a relationship with your consumers. You may have a list of 500 people, you may have a list of 500 million people, but at the end of the day, each one of those individuals is a whole human being on the other end of things. So being very careful to remember how you're being received. If you think about it in terms of just a friendship, honestly, you can understand the things that your best friend loves. If your best friend loves coffee and reading and going for bike rides, you don't necessarily need to talk about them exclusively or talk with them exclusively about coffee and reading and bike rides, but those are important data points to know about them, and you may want to bring them up occasionally. But don't text them every day about coffee and reading and bike rides. See what I mean? It's this balance between we have some information about you and we want to use that to give you something good. Another thing that I particularly like during this season is brands who know themselves. This is exactly what Jeffrey was saying earlier about know yourself and know your customers. This speaks a bit to the question that we saw earlier about ethically marketing during the spending-oriented holiday season. So Peak Design is a camera equipment company. So they do a lot of bags and camera gear and a lot of sort of outdoorsy stuff. And I really like the company because I think they do things ethically. I know that I'm buying from a good business that's well run, whose values align with my own. And So getting an email from them on Black Friday that I believe the subject line was, "We think this will get your attention." And the whole email, none of the email was about gear sales. It was all about finding a solution to climate change. It's a really bold move, frankly, for a Black Friday deal or a Black Friday season when everyone else is just rallying for your money. Peak Design does a great job of knowing who they are and building their brand. And this is something that I've spoken about in the past too with REI. They did a great job with the Opt Outside campaign that's now become a huge thing. On Black Friday, they close their stores and they encourage people just to get outside because they recognize that their identity as a brand is fundamental in building that long-term relationship with your customers. So you don't have to think about it as necessarily a one-to-one trade. If you decide to go on Black Friday, use that opportunity to only talk about your message, that's fine, but you're not sacrificing sales with that necessarily. What you could be gaining is a long-term relationship with your customers. So I think that's an important reminder for everyone to just know who you are and recognize that you don't have to do the same thing that everyone else is doing. You can write the rules, especially this year. This year's everyone knows that we're all living through a global pandemic and we're all trying to figure our way out with a situation we're not comfortable with necessarily. So trying something new, if you're going to try it this year, lean into your brand. And then finally, specifically for personalization, simple is scalable. I know a lot of you answered that you just had concerns around the general chaos of the holiday season. You're getting there. You're maybe not necessarily totally ready with your holiday campaigns, but you anticipate maybe a bit of a stressful season. So here's your friendly reminder that simple is scalable, and simple can look different for different brands. So on the left, we have this super clean example of a Canopy email where someone has a lot of information on you. Clearly, it says, here are some things for your significant other who is creative and into baking and cooking. So those are 4 different data points. It's, first of all, first data point, this is not you. Second of all, who are you buying a gift for? Third, what are they interested in? And what type of person are they? So there are 4 different data points that are helping to personalize this email. But if you look at the email itself, it's really clean. It's really simple. They're not doing a whole ton of crazy conditional logic. So this makes things scalable. It will help you keep your sanity during a holiday season. And another example that I spoke about earlier is this Cotton Bureau's Midwest is Best. You can take, if you only have, for example, the information around where someone lives, you can chunk lots of data into big segments so that you don't necessarily have to do one-to-one personalization every message. You can find a message that resonates with someone without having to do a billion versions of one email. You can keep it pretty scalable, and honestly, I think we all need a little extra simplicity in our life during these times. So I would encourage you, when you lay out your plans for the holidays, if you haven't already, think about ways that you can keep things simple, clean, scalable. Honestly, at the end of the day, whatever you can do to prevent errors during a time that's already a bit wild, I find that to be particularly helpful. Keeps me keeping my head on straight, honestly. So to recap from those examples, key takeaways, just be authentic, be yourself. That's going to be the differentiator. When everyone's inboxes are super full this year, authenticity is going to be the thing that makes you stand out, not necessarily 1,000 emojis or the lowest price. Know who you are, know your brand, and know your customers. Second, treat every message as a relationship builder. So understand what value you bring to that relationship and know that you don't have to personalize on every last detail as long as you're providing something that's helpful, that's relevant, and that's welcome. And finally, like I said earlier, remember that you are a human too. So now is not the time to try to shoot the moon. We're all living through a pandemic. It's already a holiday season approaching. Everybody's figuring things out. So be kind to yourself. Plan ahead. Ask your friends for help. And simple can be brilliant. And with that,
we're on to the Q&A. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jeffrey, and thank you so much, Kait. That fantastic tips, tricks, advice, and lots of food for thought. And Kait, I think that last one for me, that was the that was the big takeaway. Simple can be brilliant. And we're not talking simple with data, yes, simple with technology, yes, but also simple with strategy. And it really comes down to understanding your audience and just trying to make a difference in that way. So I think that it's really brilliant. And I know you touched on that question that has been asked, but I'd like to ask that again, because I'd like to hear what Jeffrey has to say, and I personally have something to say on it too.
Yeah.
So the question is, from the audience, how can we ethically spend this market, the spending-oriented holiday season? So how can we ethically market? Should we be driving people to spend or buy? I feel as if we need to cancel the buy spending season. Now, from my perspective, I totally get it. And I'm always addressing, because from the holistic perspective, from the helpful marketing perspective and everything, I'm with you all the way. And particularly understanding there are people who don't have the budgets that they're used to, or there are lots of people who are really suffering. But at the same time, if we look at it that we're giving them discounted deals and we're not trying to sell them something they wouldn't normally be buying. There was another stat which I didn't present, but they're talking about most people are going to be buying essential items during, as opposed to the more frivolous or the things that they wouldn't normally buy. So what we're going to be doing is actually helping them to live a better life by giving them a discounted offer for their essential items. So as long as we are standing by that helpful marketing perspective, as long as we are not necessarily trying to convince them, we're just simply helping them to achieve their objective, then I don't think that there is really an ethical dilemma as such. There will be an ethical dilemma if we are trying to increase the average order value for the sake of increasing the average order value, which I understand is a total brand objective. But again, if we do that in a helpful manner, then maybe it's helpful to them. It really is, try and keep that in the top of mind, that if you keep everything as helping them to live a better life by buying your product because it's going to give them discounted Christmas gifts for their grandchildren, or it's going to give them the new TV because their existing TV is broken and they've been waiting for Black Friday to be able, for the sales, to be able to get a new TV. So things like that, I can see that we're actually doing a good thing here. So,
I totally agree, Cass. I think it's really important to highlight the language around it too. If you're using language that's making someone feel anxious or scared or like they're missing out if they don't buy, I think that can be really harmful. But I think if you pose the messaging in such a way where here are opportunities to delight someone and make your own choices, buy what you need to buy. I think there's a big difference between anxiety-inducing marketing versus helpful marketing.
I would totally agree as well. I think consumers will be purchasing items that are necessities, as Kath mentioned, this holiday season. Just speaking for myself here, I recently moved into a new home, and I know this holiday season I will certainly be thinking about things that I can purchase to furnish the home, right? And I think a lot of people have that mindset of, and the reason I bring up that example actually is because one of my TVs did break, so I probably will be looking for a new TV actually, but there will be a lot of consumers thinking through that lens, and you should think about that empathetic messaging to not in a way that like, hey, we're offering just X% off, so you should buy.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah,
so
sure.
We've only got a couple of minutes left, but I want to we'll have one person answer this. So the question is, can you speak to how you would speak to a true gifter versus someone you suspect is buying for themselves at some point? It's easy for me to identify that women are gifters for my brand and men are buying for themselves. So would either of you like to chip in with how is best to make that different? That in itself is an act of personalization, which is brilliant.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say the short answer is ask. It never hurts to ask someone what their preferences are, who they're buying for, and honestly, you'll probably get a clearer answer then than if you try to do some kind of crazy heuristics to figure it out.
Okay, brilliant.
Totally agree.
Okay, fab. Amazingly, we've run out of time. I really want to thank Kait and Jeffrey for coming on, sharing their insights, their knowledge, their experience. It's got some fantastic advice for us as marketers to be acting upon. I really think that there's a lot of food for thought as well. Maybe you can't be implementing all of it for this year, but definitely write down some notes and pin them on your board for next. Thank you all again. Feel free to contact any or all of us. And there's an attachment there as well, a little link that you can navigating the 2020 holiday season infographic, courtesy of Iterable. And also, like I said, stay tuned because 20 of you are going to be able to receive a signed copy of my upcoming book, which I hope you will enjoy. So thank you to everyone. Thank you, Iterable, Kait, Jeffrey, and of course, thank you, the viewers. Really loved having you here.
Thank you so much, Kath. Such a joy.
Thank you so much, Kath.
Thanks. Bye.